Yo guys, welcome back to another video. This will be a early predictions OP08 tier list that's kind of looking at like essentially what can beat red purple law. It's very clear right now. A few regionals and CSs have been going on over the past couple weeks over in Asia. The Aichi CS was just yesterday on the 9th of June as of recording this. It's the day after. And yeah, I wanted to, instead of doing more of like the general all-encompassing kind of like meta placing tier list that I like to do, I wanted to make one that's just clearly about like what can stand up to red purple law and what could possibly win a large tournament here in this current meta where law is just undeniably the best deck in format, which I think is a fun way to look at it. And again, these are all just predictions and stuff too, so I don't think there's as much data to really try and make one of those more nuanced tier lists like I like to make as well. So this one's just gonna be fun. We're gonna be talking about like what can take down law, what has some potential, and what I'd like to see maybe win some stuff. But yeah, so that's it, and without any further ado, let's just jump in and let's get started. Alright, so just to go over this real quick, the tier lists are different from normal, from what I normally do. It's just S, which is essentially best deck in format. This is like your tier 0. Then we have A, which is going to be like things that can just naturally contend with the best deck in format and have a chance of actually winning alongside the best deck in format. Then I have a separate category for decks that maybe otherwise, if law wasn't so dominant, wouldn't possibly be this high in the tier list, but because they stand a good chance against red purple law in a meta that is literally going to be predictably like, I don't know, 70, 80, 90% laws after like the first couple rounds of a tournament, a big tournament like a CS. Right, like because of that situation, certain outlier decks or decks that are just really good against that one deck. This happened a little bit with Sakazuki. Like Yamato was really good against Sakazuki, so a good Yamato player who got a few like lucky matchups throughout the day could make it all the way to the finals, and obviously, as we saw, like win some of the CSs in Japan. So that's what this category is. Another category that's good but meta locked, essentially just like is a good deck, and like if red purple law wasn't so dominating and so like oppressive and so much of a gatekeeper, then would stand a higher chance, right? And then we just have the, like before, I have like a tier 3 like local heroes, good for like standard battles like locals or just for fun, right? Here are the leaders. We have our fallen hero. I don't want to speak too soon, but we might have somebody joining him. Whoa. Somebody might be joining him pretty soon. And then off meta needs to cook. Again, sorry if any of the leaders you like are in here. I have a ton of leaders that I like in here. I say this every time, but don't take any of this personally. This is just a predictive tier list. This one especially is like super just predictive. So please, obviously you don't have to agree with everything that I say, but please keep it classy in the comments. And let's jump in. Let's get started. So I'm just gonna do this. We're just putting law goes up here. That's where he'll be the entire time until he falls down to fallen heroes. If you want to know the long and short of it, I personally think law is probably gonna get banned after OP08 unless just something amazing and crazy happens with like the starter decks, and I don't know, maybe the next set that comes out. I know OP09 is going to shake things up, but I think the even better way to do that would just be ban law, and then you have a really cool, crazy new fresh meta to go into the 2nd year anniversary and OP09 and all that jazz. Then we're moving on. These are all in no, and really even the tier 3 here is no particular order. This is no particular order, so please don't pay any mind to that, especially this one too. These just for now I'll be placing them, and if I feel like the order of the tier is very important, I'll try and like do a few nuanced changes and placements there. We're gonna put Lucci up here. Lucci is still just really good, and I'm just gonna get this out of the way here. This is it right here. Probably like this, yeah. Black Yellow Luffy is still amazing. It's still a really good deck. The unfortunate thing is in OP08, law just has a favored matchup against it. Same with, so these two decks, there was an interesting triangle going on in OP07 where like Lucci could beat law most of the time, but Black Yellow Luffy stomps Lucci, and then red purple law could beat both of them and like every other single deck, right? Probably kind of favored for law against Luffy, but a really experienced Luffy player could probably get it closer to like a 50-50. Same kind of thing with Lucci and law, honestly, but maybe slightly favored for Lucci. Now it's just Black Maria is just too good. It's too broken. Law gets too much value just from turn 2, essentially, with Pudding and Black Maria. And yeah, the new Jack and some other cards are pretty good from OP08 to help Lucci. Luffy doesn't get anything. That's part of the reason why he hasn't like really, you know, been able to go up or compete against Law very well. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but these are the top 3, right? And Law, just with the new cards from OP08, just took an extra step above. He's in tier 0 now. It's pretty undeniable at the moment. And this is it. So any of these decks could win, and you're seeing it already. Like the IHCS was 11 Law, 2 Luffy, 2 Lucci, and a Renegade Boa Hancock, right? So this is probably what it's going to be for the next couple of weeks, just unless a Giga Chad can come through with like a Dofi or a Hancock or a Yamato and just like burst through, or a Kalgara. Which I would love to see, but this is what it's going to be. This is it probably for the whole of OP08. I'm just going to say that right now until the new starter decks come out. Let's move on, because this is the more interesting category, I think. Stands a chance against Red Purple Law, and I'm gonna just start doing it by the category instead of like by the actual leader itself, because we only have a few here. So I'm gonna put Yamato in here. Yamato has a good matchup against Law. Yamato still good against Law. Was better in OP07. I would say, especially if you can get first, it's favored for Yamato. Now in OP08, just with the efficiency, but like the thing is, like Black Maria doesn't really do much against Yamato because you're normally just rushing Law down, but they do get some extra value and some extra early leader effect plays that they get with the Dawn, so it still hurts. Plus they just put out like Queen, Kid, Sanji, like they can just put out so many blockers that it's kind of ridiculous, but Yamato still has a good matchup. Let's see, another one here, like Dofi. As you saw maybe at the other, the CS the previous week, there was a Giga Chad top 4 Dofi who got, you know, really close to getting in the finals. Turns out just blue removal is still really good against a bunch of 4 and 5 cost bodies, right? So Dofi's another one who stands a chance against Red Purple Law, but you know, has a harder time against decks like Lucci. Like Lucci is good against Dofi and Hancock, unfortunately, so has kept blue down. But you know, blue is good against yellow Luffy too. Like bottom decking Sabos and 4-cost Pudding to, you know, just get them back down to 5 cards if they were stacking up like in a 10-11 card hand. Just really good. Another one that I think stands a chance against Red Purple Luffy is Hancock. So same vein as Dofi here. I think until the new starter deck comes out, that I think we'll have some more buffs for Dofi. I think Hancock's still just the better option here, just because she can get the extra draw when you really need it. And just having more options for like seeing the cards that you really need. You need those gravity blades against black yellow Luffy and Law, right? I guess you could make an argument that Dofi can kind of go wider and maybe has a better matchup against Lucci, but I think it's kind of apples and oranges to a certain extent here. Another deck that I think actually does stand a chance against Red Purple Law is Marco. Marco is yet to be explored fully, I believe, just because everyone's on the Law train. Same thing with Carrot. I'm going to come to Carrot in a second, but Marco has potential. I think he really does. Another thing too, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, I have all the OP08 leaders in here because I did a predictive or a final 7.5 OP07 tier list. So if you want to see that, go check it out. This is it if you want to see where I place things. But like King, I don't think is this high up, and there's some other stuff that I would change, but actually for the most part I think it was pretty spot on. But I do want to just address that I will be talking about all the OP08 leaders and placing them where I think they should go now that there's been a little bit of time. But jumping back, I think Marco, just blue removal, anything with removal and KO has a shot against Law, right? And he has both. The thing is it's a leader, and I've been talking about this with friends, and multiple people have said this to me, and we've had conversations where it's like Marco's a leader that can win against anything, but he can lose against anything. And in a meta with like a very overpowering best deck in format, I don't think that's enough really to get by. Honestly, I'd put probably Yamato above Marco here. And I want to talk about Carrot for a second. So Carrot, And keep in mind, this category here does not include like the matchups against the other top tier decks, even the other leaders in this category. I know that might be kind of confusing, but like Carrot has one of the absolute best matchups against Red Purple Law, in my personal opinion. I've done a bunch of testing with friends who are good Red Purple Law players, and you can see all the videos online too. Like 90% of the videos with Carrot right now are just showing how good she is against Red Purple Law, and it's true. I have like a 80% or higher win rate against Red Purple Law with Carrot right now, just like over the past couple weeks, which is insane. But Carrot has trouble into black, obviously, and blue too. Like any kind of removal, like mono green suffers against removal and KO, right? Because they don't have a lot of protection against that, and they don't have a lot of rush. They don't have a lot of like healing. There's not you know, or no healing. Like there's not a lot of ways for green to kind of make up for the things that like black and blue give them the trouble for, if that makes sense. But Carrot has, if I had to say like what leader just on its own is the best against Red Purple Law right now, it would be Carrot. It would be Carrot. But I can't put her obviously in like even A tier, just because it just, unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. But Carrot's really good, really good. Like if it was just the RP Law thing, it would be Carrot, which I'm so happy about, because I had originally had Carrot even lower, but she's really good. Don't sleep on her. There's the Don Quixote build and the Minx, and I think they both have their purposes and their place. But yeah, really good. But let's move on here. Decks, other decks. I think Kalgara has a shot. Kalgara definitely has a shot. It's just Kalgara has been blowing everyone away. He's been way better than people originally thought. Turns out like aggro swarm is just really good, right? So yeah, it still needs to be tested, but I believe, what was it, the Singapore Gal, like the Grand Asia Open, I think had a top 16 Kalgara, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I got that wrong. And just to add on another one here, we got, you know, aggro right now is actually really powerful, because aggro can beat black, aggro can beat Law, because if Law can't out aggro you, or if you can out tempo, if you can throw off Law's tempo plays by out aggroing him, you can win. Which sounds simple, but it's really hard to do, and hasn't really been possible until the animal build with Zoro and the new, just like the pressure that Kalgara can put, because Kalgara is a lot of pressure but also very defensive, and it's not as easy to play as you might think. There are a lot of like really, it's like Yamato, where people think it's a brain dead deck, but if you like want to actually play it at a high level against the best decks in the format, you need to know what you're doing, and there are a lot of like decisions that you have to make. Kalgara is really hard, like knowing like what to set up when. There are some turns where it's like, yes, I just want to do this, but especially towards the end game, like keeping your counter, using your counter, having your events, a lot of stuff to think about. But he's like, it's fun. Kalgara is a lot of fun. It's like a very aggro deck that can be very defensive in the second half of the game, which is really cool. And just helps it not feel like a glass cannon, I think. And the 5 life also helps, right? Zoro, kind of same thing. You're just swarming the board. Like the new 3-cost chopper is really good for that. But yeah, these are some more decks. I think Zoro's just better than Chopper, so I don't think Chopper would really be a candidate for beating Red Purple Law, just because Zoro's better. So let me finish with these OP08 leaders here, and then we'll move on to the rest. But I would say Chopper just is going to be a local hero for now. King, crazy, but I might throw King a bone and say it's good but meta locked, because it's not just Red Purple Law gatekeeping. I'm talking about just the meta in general. If it was a slower meta, I do think King would be really good, and I think that's why so many of us, myself included, I was wrong about King. I thought he was going to be like better than Lucci right here. Lucci's way better than King, at least right now. OP07 was an incredibly slow meta, where like if you just dropped King into OP07, I think he would be extremely good, like at least A tier up here, right? So I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say that in a slower meta, he probably would be good. And then Pudding, I think, just doesn't have the tools. It's like you're just drawing a bunch of counterless cards. If you get the perfect curve, then yeah, it's really good. But like honestly, I think Katakuri in OP08 is better than Pudding. I don't know if that's just wrong, but that's my feeling about it right now. And then I'm trying to see real quick if there's any other. Enel is hard. Enel is hard right here. I might have to put Enel here actually, because Enel still has a decent matchup into red purple law. I'm actually gonna put him here. I'm gonna put him here. Enel is just a very special leader because he always has a place up at the top. I have had this conversation with a friend too, where it was really interesting. We were talking about like Yamato and Enel are similar in the fact that like their leader ability is so good that they will always at least hover around B or C tier. They're never gonna drop off unless like the meta just changes, like the game's style of play like changes so much that they wouldn't be relevant anymore. But like so many things would have to change for that to happen. It's always going to be, Enel is always going to be really good, and he's going to have his moments. Like in OP07, he was like up at the top. You know, OP05, 6, he's had his moments where he's like jumped up, right? So I will keep him here, but this is like, not only does he have a decent-ish matchup into red purple law, he's extremely consistent. Like as crazy as that sounds, like OP07, OP08 Enel is just incredibly consistent because of how many cards you're drawing. And the new like 3-cost Bonnie works better in Enel than I thought it would, because you don't starve as much in OP08. OP07 Enel starved a little bit more in my opinion. So now getting the extra draw, just the trigger, draw 2, trash 1, 2 off the new 3-cost Egghead Bonnie is really good too. He's extremely consistent, has a decent matchup into law. Like he can beat, and he's kind of like Marco, where it's like he can beat any leader, he can lose to, well, probably better than Marco, because it's like he can win against anything if you get lucky enough, and then you know he has a few bad matchups. Like Bonnie or, you know, Lucci, and Lucci being up at the top helps keep Enel down, so I'm going to keep him down here, but I'm going to put him here in the second spot. Just know that it's also because he's just generally good. I would put Enel here, but I don't think I can right now. All right, let's keep it moving. I think we're going to move on now. Oh, here you go. No, this is one more, throwing this one a bone. So and man, I've wanted to crack out this leader and play it. I used to play him a lot in OP04. I think just Birdcage Dofi with like the new 9-cost Mom or 9-cost Kaido and 7-cost Kid, the Dawn -1 with Birdcage, just works really well. It's a super spicy combo, and it's good against law. I don't know how really well it does against like blue or some of the other top tier meta, so but it is good against law, so I'm gonna throw him a bone. I love Doflamingo the character too, so we're just throwing him a bone, but it is strong, so I'm not just talking trash here. All right, moving on. These are essentially, the rest of these are going to be in the good but meta locked category, so I'll just throw them in here. Nami, red purple law is Nami's worst nightmare. Even in OP07, dude, Nami, I mean, like if you're Ayatora, like the goated Japanese Nami player, you can beat anything, but even he's not playing Nami right now, which just shows you like how bad it really is. Yeah, Nami is basically just being gate kept by red purple law. There's not much more to it. She can beat almost like any other leader. Yeah, bounce blue is a little hard for her, but even so, I think it's just red purple law for the most part. Then blue yellow ace I think is just good because he's got like, and he can utilize the new 10-drop blue new gate pretty well, and just obviously the color combo of yellow and blue is good. It's just not a bad combo, and you know, with being able to buff yourself and having rush ace, and he has a lot of tools. He had a lot of tools in OP07, was still decent, and has even more in OP08, but kind of just the same thing where it's like it's not really his time. Like he doesn't really work in this meta. Reiju I think is an obvious one, just because similar, like Reiju and Nami are just sisters here, because they just get like literally just, they're like, can we come out to play? And Law is just like, no. So you stay inside. I'm gonna go play with my friends. Then we got red purple Luffy. I think I almost want to put red purple Luffy in here. Maybe I'll throw him a bone. Maybe I'll throw him a bone too. I think red purple Luffy is actually pretty good against law, and could potentially stand a chance there. We'll put him there. This is like kind of the order. I'll come back to this in a second. Bonnie is really good. Bonnie's a really good leader, but in OP07 she still had a rough matchup against law, OP08, it's like impossible. Not impossible, but like you're really just hoping you don't hit a law until like your last round or two, and then you just, you know, hope you can outplay your opponent and learn the matchup. And there are some new techs that help with like Electrical Luna, and people are putting in Carrot and even 8-cost Rosinante, just going back to the full Doflamingo build, which is my favorite of Bonnie. I don't really like 8-cost Kid, so I don't really like the Supernova builds, which is cool to see. It's actually made me interested. If I wasn't playing Carrot, I would maybe test out Bonnie a little bit. Moria, just another sad one here. Just really good, but just kind of gate kept by like Lucci too, and Black Yellow Luffy, more so than Law, honestly. Moria, I don't think, like, I mean, you could still win against Law probably with OP07, OP08, Moria, but Luffy and Law, or Luffy and Lucci just like make Moria like pretty much like just useless, unfortunately. So if you're a Moria stan, I feel for you. I like Moria. Moria's like one of the only black leaders I actually like too, so it sucks. But I think Whitebeard is just that guy. He's just that guy. He's just that 6K leader. He's the Oyaji. He's hanging out at the barbecue, kind of keeping to himself, but everybody knows he could like kill you in a second. He could like snap your neck. I think with the new starter deck coming out, with that new 5-cost ace, that if instead of being removed from play, you can just give it -2000 once per turn. 5-cost 6000 1K counter rush ace that's coming out. He's going to be pretty good, and so it's going to be good for Marco, and it's going to be good for our boy Red Ace. But yeah, he's just going there. Perona, I think, is still really good. I think a lot of people just gave up on like Samurai Perona once OP07 ended, but I still think it's a really good leader, really good like archetype, and honestly still pretty decent against Law. I don't know exactly what the matchup looks like now, just because I haven't seen it as much in OP08, but yeah, I think she's still pretty good. I would maybe like do something like this for right now. Then we got Vegapunk. Boy Vegapunk. I do think Red Purple Law is incredibly difficult for him, even with the new buffs. And Lucci is, you know, black is hard, but I think he can stand his own against a lot of other leaders. So he's good, but in this current meta, like meta locked, or also just like in this current meta, not really the best. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Rebecca too. I think Rebecca's really good. I always think Rebecca's like, she's always been powerful, like in OPO since OPO4, like always been a sleeper. Kind of one of those leaders that people just don't like continue to explore with, and doesn't get enough like play to really fully have the, you know, like if more people, some leaders, I just feel like if more people played, they'd become more prevalent and then would like be able to exist in the meta. I don't know if that's just copium, but yeah, that's how I feel about Rebecca. And OP08 seems pretty strong. I think some people are going to be cooking with her, so keep an eye out for Rebecca, especially if Red Purple Law goes bye-bye. And then we got Katakuri. I think Katakuri is just, you know, he's Katakuri. He's good. I do think with like that new 6-cost Big Mom that's coming out in the starter deck might be a nice addition. OP08 saw like a small resurgence of Katakuri with like the new 5-cost Egghead Nami. But I don't know if it's enough. I think he still just ends up losing to Red Purple Law and probably Lucci most of the time. So a little bit rough for him, a little bit rough for my guy. But okay, that's it. We did it. This is all the leaders. Let me just see real quick. Again, I don't want the order to matter too much here. This is really more of just like a overall in general kind of thing. But yeah, this is it. Like obviously Law's best in format. Luffy and Lucci up at the top because they can still contend with Law. They're just not as consistently winning and just not as good potential ceiling in my opinion. This row, again, I'm gonna reiterate this here at the end for anyone who just like skipped to the end. This is just a category for decks that I think can beat Law, and not necessarily this ordering doesn't matter that much, and it doesn't actually reflect of like what I think they can do into the other top tier decks. Just that like they're good enough and they have a good shot against Law. That's all I'm trying to say here. And if we just looked at who's good against Law, I honestly, just my personal opinion, I would put Carrot as the top, if not one of the top contenders. Like if you ask me, this would be it, right? It'd be these three decks. But Enel is just good in general and can beat whatever deck just by sheer force of 10-cost acing a million times and staying alive forever. So he's gonna get this spot right here. Other ones, don't worry about the order too much. But yeah, I think all these leaders have a decent enough shot into law and are good enough on their own. Then we got all these, especially this row, don't worry about the order too much. But these are good leaders that it's just unfortunately not their time to shine. They're good, but they're meta locked, or they're just not doing too well into this meta. Again, the locals are Fallen Hero and the off meta category here. So that is it for the predictive tier list. Again, these are just my opinions. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a One Piece lawyer, so don't take my word as the gospel. But let me know. Let me know what you think. Are you excited that Law is going to be like undeniably best deck in format? Are you afraid? Do you think he's going to get banned? What do you want to happen? Do you think this kind of format sucks, or do you like having kind of like a set tier 0 deck and just like, do you like to cook, you know, like, because I'm kind of here, right? I love Yamato and Carrot, and like I kind of enjoy the challenge of like trying to beat the top tier decks. It's just annoying when if you can beat the top tier decks but then you lose to like something like Lucci, and you're like, man, I'm being gate kept like twice here. But yeah, it's I kind of enjoy it. I do think things should probably change within, you know, a little soon. I think Law's getting banned at the end of OP08. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the tier list. And yeah, just as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.